Dealing with rude and arrogant people can be aggravating. You try to be kind and courteous, but when they respond with cynicism and insults, it's hard not to become upset. That's the situation today in 1 Samuel chapter 25. Welcome to the Word for 2021. Today, cynicism is on the rise. Common courtesy, it's not so common anymore. It comes as no surprise that when 2,000 people were surveyed, 8 out of 10 Americans said that there is a lack of respect and civility today, and it's getting worse. Here in chapter 25, Nabal, he displays nothing but selfishness, rudeness, sarcasm, and disrespect. In verse 2, as we read this chapter, there was a certain man in Maon, and he had property in Carmel, and he was very rich, it says. He had 1,000 goats and 3,000 sheep. He was also described as surly and mean in his dealings. Now David and his men, they were staying in the desert of Maon, and on their own, they protected Nabal's herds and his herdsmen. It said that nothing was taken, nothing was missing, and no one was mistreated. It's as though night and day they formed a wall around all of Nabal's herds and herdsmen. Well, the time came to shear the sheep. It was a celebration time. And so David sends 10 men to ask for a kindness. He tells his men, "Now greet the man in my name and speak blessings over him. Tell him how we protected his herds and his herdsmen, and even have the herdsmen verify that." And then he told his men to say, "Please give your servants and your son David whatever you can find for them." David wanted them to be polite and humble, not demanding. But in response, Nabal, he sent them away with nothing but insults and disrespect. He said, "Why should I give you anything that's mine?" 4 times he says, "Everything I have is mine, mine, mine." Well, in hearing Nabal's response, David burned with anger, and he told his men, "Put on your swords." When Nabal's servants told Abigail, his wife, what had happened, they said, "He is such a wicked man that no one can talk to him." Well, in verse 18, she got provisions together for David and his men. And in verse 25, when she reached David, she said to him, "May my Lord pay no attention to that wicked man. He is just like his name. His name means fool, and folly goes with him." Then she said, "You're going to be the next king, and the Lord has kept you from bloodshed and avenging yourself with your own hands until now. Please forgive your servant's offense. After all, you fight the Lord's battles, so don't do wrong now. Even though someone is pursuing your life, the Lord will hurl your enemies away from you just like a stone from the pocket of a sling." She was reminding David of who he was, that God was with him, that God had called him to fight bigger battles, and that God had used him to defeat Goliath. So don't stoop down to Nabal's level. That is excellent advice whenever we're dealing with rude, disrespectful people. We need to remember that we are a child of God. We're a son or daughter of the King, that God is with us, and that God has called us to fight bigger battles, spiritual battles. Therefore, we should not stoop down to the level of selfish, arrogant, fearful people. In other words, we need to choose to let God fight for us. We need to choose to live above foolishness. We need to choose to keep ourselves from taking actions that we will regret later. And we need to choose not to let anger rule our actions. That's good advice. Thank you for joining the Word for 2021.